All right, good. Everyone's on now. Let's start. Again, my name is Doug Blizzard with Catapult. Excited today to spend a few minutes giving you some insight both into the experience that we've had at Catapult as an employer over the last year, but also have you learn more about this different way forward. We think better way forward on your healthcare. We speak a lot and answer a lot of questions now from our members around attracting, retaining employees. And we could spend hours on that. I'm sure you all know that, but again, looking for creative ways to do that. A lot of employers have already maxed out raises and bonuses and whatnot. And this is another way that I think, as you'll learn more about it, is a way to attract and retain staff. It's very unique in that it offers employees the security of a PPO network, but on top of that, about 19 categories of free healthcare, which is everybody likes free, right? So we'll talk more about how that works today. But today joining me is Patrick Long with Hero Health. So Patrick, welcome.
Thanks.
And we're going to just dive right in. If you have questions, of course, just go to chat and type it in there. If not, if we'll record this session and just start recording. So if you have to jump off or you want to send this to someone else at your organization to listen to, invite you to do that as well. We're just trying to get the word out about this great program. So let's start. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, Patrick, take it away.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for allowing me to present Doug and Julia and the Catapult team. This is an informational session. We'll kind of be at a high level, but like Doug said, we've got a lot of information to share if somebody wants to go one-on-one or have their broker call us or find out more about it. Julia and I have a lot of information to share with y'all and kind of meet you where you are. So diving right in, we often start here and ask, where's your plan today? How do you feel about it today? And then share some information that we get at the national level or regional level or statewide level that Catapult has as well. This is a national poll that Mercer did recently in the summer, asking professional HR, CFOs, executives, what do you feel, how do you feel where your plan stands, and what are you going to do to enhance benefits in 2023 or not? And you can see the numbers here that it's highest as it's been since they've been polling on enhancing benefits, or they're doing it right now. They've made a major upgrade. Only 16% made a big upgrade in 2022 because that would have been coming in, still full-blown COVID a year ago. But 70%, fully 70% in the survey from Mercer said they were going to enhance benefits significantly in 2023 or somewhat. And only 16% said they didn't do that. I'm sorry, only 14% said they had no plans to improve benefits. So a lot of people aren't sitting on their hands. They're really looking for programs like we're going to talk about here today. So you're not alone, I guess, is the message. If you're feeling that, hey, maybe to be competitive in a 3% unemployment marketplace, without, like Doug said, the budget restraints of raises and bonuses, maybe I need to look at something like enhancing our benefits for retention, recruiting, reputation, and so on. So anyway, this is just an overview. You're not alone, I guess, is the message. But next slide, please. And Doug, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the journey, because y'all are I can speak to this. Everybody's journey is personal, right? And Catapult has theirs, and we'll share a little bit. But it's probably going to resonate with y'all because what Hero does is travel around the region. I was up in Virginia talking to school districts yesterday, rural school districts in right at the border of Virginia and Tennessee. Really tough economic situation up there, really tough, to hire teachers to move to rural areas. Everyone's got a different journey. But the things that stay the same are everyone wants to have that better care, lower cost, more control that we had on the first slide. And Doug, maybe you could speak to kind of the journey that Catapult has been on.
Yeah, of course, we're a new merged organization from a healthcare standpoint, we were pretty typical from other companies. We've got about 55 to 60 employees on our plan, plus dependents. And we had been on that typical merry-go-round for years and years and years and years. You know, we were for many years fully insured. For the last few years, we're level funded. And pretty much for us, we didn't have a lot of options in terms of offering better care. Every year we would raise our deductible. We were up to almost $5,000 at the end there with an HRA tied to that of $1,500. I mean, so it was I'm sorry, $3,500. It was we just had a lot of options for us. Frustrating. We'd change carriers every few years. We'd get that crazy 15-20% increase and try to negotiate. So just not a lot of options as a relatively small employer. So we started looking around. We looked at the Hero plan and liked the fact that it allowed us, even at 55 employees, to become self-funded. And so now we've been on this plan for over a year. We are fully self-funded. I mean, totally self-funded. We are totally outside of the carrier world. And so we're kind of controlling our own destiny. I won't go into too many details about how Hero works. I mean, the way it works is it starts with a PPO plan. It's kind of almost like two plans. It starts with a PPO plan, which our employees like because they can go anywhere they want to go. It's like 99% of all providers. So this is not a narrow network. They take that card and go pretty much anywhere they want to go. And at the base level, it works like regular insurance works. You know, you have a little deductible of $1,000. You know, there's a copay, that kind of stuff. On top of that, though, Hero, which is what you'll learn more about going through today, has like 19 or so categories of what they call Power of Zero, which is basically free or almost free healthcare. So we've got employees get surgeries for nothing. We've had a lot of generics are free. So again, we'll go through that later. The point is, from an employee attraction retention standpoint, it is almost hard to believe. Again, we'll talk how that works. The employees love it. We've had tremendous utilization over the last year from employees. You know, like 90-something% have called the nurse. There's a nurse navigator here, a pharmacy navigator in here, pharmacist at least. They love those parts of this plan. And at the same time, we as a company in the first year saved $200,000 off of what we were going to spend with our carrier. So it's kind of a win-win-win. Not perfect. Nothing's perfect. But from a wow factor, when you're actually recruiting people and you can say that, look at all these Power of Zero free benefits from a retention standpoint. My daughter is pregnant. She's having her first baby in December. She loves this plan, loves the nurse navigator, loves how much help she's received, the free stuff she's received, but also just the help and guidance she's received as a first-time expecting mother, which can be scary and and unknown. She loves that. So it's been a great win-win for us so far at Catapult.
Yeah. Well, we can stop there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions?
Thanks for playing. Thank you, Doug. I know you've been involved, for many years, and in all seriousness, having that merry-go-round is a good analogy. We've used that a lot. And many people on this call have been on that and just switch horses, we say, every 2 years, every 3 years, when you get that unexpected 15, 20, 30% increase. Oh my gosh, that horse threw us. But you stay on the merry-go-round. Could you go to the next slide, please? Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is just a little representation of that, where what we say is stop going around in circles, and you can leave the merry-go-round, but you got to go with the right people. You can't just wing it. You have to have folks like Hero guide you into a safe place where the finances are taken care of. There's no shock to the system. This isn't RBP. This isn't, Doug said, it's not a narrow network or an HMO or anything like that. You need access everywhere to please your employees. And then above that access everywhere, you have to have it's complex. It's a confounding world of healthcare. You need a nurse and a pharmacist to help navigate you, guide you to those better outcomes, top providers. And that's the way to leave the merry-go-round. And so, if you could go to the next slide, please. And Doug already highlighted some of these, but the savings were a little more than 23. Trend is another thing. Somebody's called it the alligator mouth. If you look at the graphs over the years, you see inflation at 2%, 3%, 2%, 2%, and then all of a sudden it's at 7 or 8%. But medical inflation has always been around 8%. They don't pay the doctors and nurses 8% more every year. I can tell you that. If you know anybody that works in the hospitals, they don't get an 8% increase every year, but that has been the trend for a lot of companies here in North Carolina and Catapult members, and probably for Catapult themselves. And so having a bend the trend as well as keeping your savings. And so we won't go deep into finance, but think about it this way. If you're spending, let's say, $500,000 a year on fully insured, and you only spend $400,000, first of all, the fully insured Blue Cross and others won't tell you that. They're just going, and you're still going to get a renewal increase, but they keep all the profit. They keep the $100,000 you didn't spend as their profit, and you still get an increase. If you're level funded and you have a $500,000 total premium or million, whatever it is, and you spend $400,000 of the $500,000, they split it with you. Often 50-50. If you yell a lot, they might give you a little more, but 50-50. And then, but that's monopoly money you can only spend with that carrier. So if you're with Cigna level funded and you save them $100,000, they give you 50 in credits that you can only apply at their company store next year. It's not cash. But if you have a $500,000 total spend with us, and you spend $400,000, which we would consider embarrassing because we'd want to go lower than that, but let's just say we'd save you $100,000. It's $100,000 in cash, and it's yours. And so that money can be used however you want. And there's no long-term obligation to stay with us or anything. If you're not happy, you just pack your bags and go to another place. But that's the way it should be, right? Is if you're doing the work, your employees are engaging and stuff like that, why should you share the money with anybody else? And so that's how it operates with self-funding done smartly, I would say. There's self-funding that's just self-funding without protections. That's dangerous. But the way we do it, it's very safe and protected, and all the money is yours. The other key thing on this that Doug alluded to already is engagements. Hero doesn't work at anywhere near optimized performance unless you have that engagement. And so Catapult is obviously, being in the HR and customer service business, very good at communications, right? And we were able to come on and meet the nurse and do Zooms and flyers and send information out through their team to the employees, and they're very engaged. Other companies might not be quite as engaged, but I would say if you have a communications plan with your company, you send out a monthly newsletter, there's an availability for events, online or in person or both, health fairs and things like that, we'll get that engagement, and we need that engagement in order to get those employees into conversations about their care and getting to the right place for healthcare. Next slide, please. And so, Doug, we could talk a little bit about this, and we don't have to read it all, but what do you see out there from, because y'all work with a lot of the HR people, but also finance. You work with a lot of CFOs and CEOs, and that traditional pull has been that the finance people want better reporting, performance, less cost for the company, and even though they care about the people too. And HR has been traditionally more in line with, hey, I want to help recruiting and retention and reputation. I need to deliver better news to the employees and potential employees. And Hero kind of appeals to both. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and what our CFO and HR like about this, from the CFO standpoint, the way this works is you self-fund, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what that means. Basically, what it means is we go out and we purchase stop-loss insurance, and so we at our company here, we purchase that insurance, and then we know we cover ourselves on both large individual claims and also the total amount of claims for the year. And so we knew what the total amount of claims worst case would be.
Yeah.
So our CFO knew the most I'm going to pay for healthcare in this year is $700,000. And so what we did was we took 700 divided by 12 and put that, he basically just every month pays our healthcare fund 1/12 of that amount of money. So, and he's happy. There's no other bills to pay. Our TPA goes into that fund and pulls out to pay the claims, to pay the various providers in here, the nurse navigation, to pay Patrick's company, all this stuff. But the good thing from the CFO standpoint is that's the max.
That's
and
the
then
max.
at year end, in our case, we said, "How we only spent 500,000, so we've got $200,000 to play with." Either what we're doing is just not paying a few monthly payments next year, which is cool. And then HR is happy because the people like the plan, and that's so it's kind of like you really have to do both. I think I'm afraid a lot of people think this. Oh, is this just some kind of cheap plan that is like remember the whole ACA bronze, silver, gold, just like a gravel plan or a sand plan? No. This is not. But so you gotta satisfy both sides. It's got to be a robust plan, but the fact that it also saves money, again, there's no guarantee of that. Yeah, you could have a really, really bad year, but that's the good thing from our standpoint. We knew even in kind of a Armageddon kind of a year where we had all kinds of bad things happen, we knew we've already funded the total amount, and it can't be a dollar over that. So that was kind of a good news for both CFOs and our HR team.
Yeah, that's well said. I think that's how our clients have felt almost uniformly, that they like especially if they've come from, say, fully insured, like your journey, fully insured to level funded to self-funded. It can be scary because they don't know all the details, and so when we say there's no responsibility above your monthly payment, and they're like, wow, so if I'm paying $50,000 a month, and we get $1 million claim, what do I pay? And we're like, $50,000 a month, so okay, so I'm funding to the max, I'm totally protected monthly and annually against those, somebody said, Old Testament years. If there's plagues and locusts and stuff like that, God forbid, bad stuff can happen, and does every 5 to 6 years. You're going to have that unexpected bad year. You're totally protected. But in the good years, you need to be keeping your, don't let the insurance companies take the money, the profit. That's your money, and so that's the nutshell of what we're talking about. Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. So kind of did it in reverse order, I guess, here, but Doug, you've already highlighted some of these as well. The main thing that we find in talking to folks, the Catapult members and mid-sized businesses in the Carolinas, is, hey, I want to have access. If we're going to be doing some proactive stuff, I like all that. I like the better care, lower cost, all in favor of that, but not at the risk of having the CEO's wife or husband denied at the front desk because it's not a network, or it's some sort of weird thing or something. It can't be. So that's when you have to say, okay, what's the logo on the card? Because that's the PPO that Doug talked about. At base, this is a all access PPO, and it's either going to be MedCost or Cigna as a base. And then on top of either one of those, you're able to steer to quality to go to that center of excellence for, if y'all are in Charlotte, it's Ortho Carolina for, say, a knee surgery, knee replacement, if you needed it, is going to be $23,000 instead of $63,000 or $73,000 at Novant. Or if you're in Greensboro, you're at the Center of Excellence there in Green Valley, same thing, $23,000 instead of $70,000 at Moses Cone. Or if you're in Raleigh, it's Raleigh Ortho, same thing, $23,000 instead of $70,000 at Wake Med or Duke or UNC. So you have these centers of excellence for all these different things. Not everything under the sun, but most of the high cost and important surgeries, from whether they're internal or orthos or spine or things like that. We get you to the top rated facilities. And then you get your reporting. You have a nice nurse as your navigator, and we say a friendly pharmacist as well, because 2/3 of your plans, if you're typical, 65% of plans have people taking prescriptions, but less than 10% are going to visit the hospital. So we said we should have a pharmacist involved in our plans, because if Americans, we consume a lot of drugs, right? And so having that pharmacist on there for medication and collaboration with your doctor and your nurse is important, because you're taking a lot of medicines. There's a lot of prescriptions on your plan. It's 25% of most plan spends right now, and it's growing. And so having a pharmacist involved is important. And then Doug also alluded to some of the benefits of how do we really engage your employees is with the zero out-of-pocket benefits that can be for surgeries, like we pointed out, or generic drugs. All the Harris Teeters have now signed up. So if you go to Harris Teeter, you get those for zero, or Kroger's, or 605 or 610 other pharmacies in North Carolina are zero. You still go to Costco or Walgreens or Walmart or CVS, you pay the regular low rates. But if you go across the street to the local pharmacy or Harris Teeter, you pay zero. And so that's a nice benefit. Anyway, and the net of all this is your plan doesn't say 50% or 5%. Its average is about 20%. Catapult had a really good year last year. They were closer to 25 or so. But most plans are averaging about 20% in savings, smoothed out over several years, by doing these proactive things on the drug side and the medical side. That's how it works. Okay, next slide, please. And Doug, I know we've seen this a couple of times, but this is kind of the journey in a cartoon form that y'all were on. On the other side, and big pharmaceutical companies, PBMs, are tied into the big insurance companies, which are tied into the big hospitals. And yeah, there's great care in North Carolina. People are getting very good health care in North Carolina. We like to work with the hospitals, but a lot of that care has gone from $500 MRIs 10 years ago to $5,000 MRIs today. I mean, almost at every hospital. And so our direct contracts with MRIs are next door to the hospital at Raleigh Radiology or Carolina Neurosurgery in Charlotte, or places like that, where it's $600. Ortho Carolina, we've got many locations down there. And so, so moving you away from that kind of network of big pharma, big insurance, big hospitals, crossing over to self-funding, like Doug pointed out, and then you get all your data. We start using more local pharmacies and getting more information about drugs, and going to centers of excellence for surgeries and emphasizing primary care. All of these things lead to better health outcomes, along with the wealth incomes of your employees growing through less out-of-pocket expense. But this cartoon is kind of where a lot of folks on this call might be stuck on the wrong side of the river, and it's not too scary to cross over, and the healthcare gets a lot better. And we don't ignore the hospitals. We just say don't go there unless you're going to the emergency room for a good reason, or seeing the top doctor inside the hospital. Then go to the hospital. We'll send you there. But don't go there for routine things that you can do. Lab work inside a hospital might cost $400 or $500. And if you go to one of the 100 locations for LabQuest and LabCorp Quest and Mako, it costs $150. Why are we going to the hospital for lab work and overpaying by 300%? There's all sorts of things that you can save money for your plan and your people by doing them outside the expensive location. And that means you're taking back control, like the title says. Next slide, please. So Doug, maybe you could talk a little bit about this and some of the things that have resonated with your folks. I know we've highlighted some of them already, but the overall, let me ask you a question. How did the Catapult members, your employees and dependents and spouses, how did that go with the explanation of this? Because it's a lot of information and how it was delivered.
Yeah, I think you look at a couple of things. One, this really the backbone of this plan is the nurse navigator. And do all employees want to have to call a nurse? No, most do, and most love it. And so what you end up with is someone that can help navigate you through. Okay, you've got to have a knee operation or a knee replacement or hip replacement. okay, let's talk about, let me show you where the best doctors are. Let's make sure we get you to the best doctor. And by the way, this best doctor, one of the best doctors, one of the top five here, is at one of the centers we have a contract with. So if you go over here to this location, you can get your MRI there for free. You can get your surgery. You are hearing me right, by the way. I know people are probably saying, "What are you talking about surgery?" The surgery's free, and then also the physical therapy. Now, the reason is Patrick does this with the Power Zero is because the company and the plan is saving money. Our deal with the employees is you pay zero. What the ask is and the requirement is go through your nurse. It's the same nurse. We all call ours is Nurse Faith. We call the same nurse, and she helps you find and locate the best doctors, and also when possible, helps you find ones that are in the plan. Now, employees can go wherever they want to go. We have employees. Nope, I'm going to the hospital. I was born in UNC. I'm going to die in UNC. Fine. Then she'll help find you the best surgeon in UNC. Let's make sure you go to the best surgeon. And so I think, to me, all these various things here we've tried over the years with consumer driven stuff and discount cards and things like that, and we just didn't get a lot of interest and a lot of use of that. This Power of Zero really gets people's attention. It's not perfect. Some people still slip up, forget about it, and they go to the hospital to have MRI done. Well, in that case, because it's based on a PPO, they just pay the deductible and do that kind of thing. So it's not an error network, which is nice. Our employees like it. But it does add a layer of extra stuff to think about, which some people say that's complex. I don't like that. Okay, that's fine. Then just go to the PPO and it operates like it always has. That's the nice thing for us. Probably a good time to stop. I mean, we've kind of gone through the base of how this plan works and just see, are there questions? Are we confusing you? I mean, obviously, we're not here to bash the status quo. I mean, carriers play an important role. A lot of people use them. They're fine. This is really, to me, it's about for those companies that are ready for a different step. Maybe you're just frustrated. Maybe you're tired of where you are. Maybe you've had a lot of bad experiences. This is kind of what this is. This is not trying to replace. This is for companies that want to take a different way forward. So any questions so far? We've gone through a lot already. Julie, any questions from the audience?
I do not see any yet.
Okay. Well, I don't know if they're being shy or we absolutely nailed it, Doug. But I don't think that's we've never done number 2 before. But it's well, another thing a question that does come up in these kinds of conversations is, what does the ideal client look like? What is the right fit? Are we the right fit as an organization for this program? And before programs like Hero, companies the size of 55 employees were too small. People would say, "Oh, you're not big enough to try these things. These are only for the big boys." And so the goal for Hero and our partnership with Catapult has been, how do we bring this down to where the real businesses are, right? Like we're a small business. People on this call might be a small business, medium-sized business. How do we help, and whom can we help? And the threshold is 25 employees on your plan. That's a statute in North Carolina it's 26 eligible, but the fact of the matter is you need to get it underwritten by stop loss, and that's 25 on your plan. We go up to 2,500, so that's a big range where Hero can help. The second number to look at after you think about employees on your plan is, how much are we spending per employee per year? And so we've worked with gotten calls and interest from a lot of Catapult folks that the range we've seen, Doug, is 4,000 to probably 18,000 or 19,000 per employee. So big range. Where Hero can really help is starting at around 6,000 or 7,000 per employee per year. If you're spending $4,000 per employee, there's not a lot of waste there because you're not spending very much. You might have a $6,000 deductible, and people they're young and healthy and not spending any money. So you got a really low rate with a real high deductible. we can't really help there. But once you get to about 6 or 7,000 per employee, that's where we can trim 15, 20%. When you're over 10,000, we can usually take off 25 or 30% of your spend, if that helps.
We have a question here. What is the liability to the employer? For example, all the COVID hospitalizations. Let me start by saying, let's take a real case study with Catapult. So when we were on a Cigna level funded, and we went to our broker involved, hey, we want to look at this HERO thing. And so our broker got up with HERO, and basically we sat down at the table and looked at 2 or 3 quotes. We had a quote from Cigna, another quote, and then we had the HERO quote. And so we kind of saw where they were, and the base quote, they're pretty similar. Mm-hmm. Pretty similar numbers, somewhere around, I don't know, let's say $600,000 a year was, for our size, was what the quotes were. And so the way that self-funding works is, so we go out and look at how much claims we'll have in a year, and we buy insurance for that. So we buy insurance for, say, $500,000 worth of claims. We think, I'm making numbers, it's something like that. We buy insurance with a stop loss carrier for that amount. So number one, we're covered for, you're only going to spend on claims, let's say $500,000 in a year. All right. And then that insurance also includes liability, an individual stop loss for an individual claim. So I forget what mine is. Is ours 15,000, Patrick, or 30,000?
No, yours is, I think 30,000.
Okay. So what that means is we know any one claim, the max we're going to pay on that claim is $30,000. So if someone goes in the hospital with COVID, let's go worst case, ventilators involved, 3 or 4 weeks stay, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, whatever. On that claim, we pay $30,000, right? And then the insurance carrier pays the rest. Now let's say we have $130,000 claims, right? Again, that we're adding up individual plus the overall. So we know the overall in the year, the most we're going to spend is that $500,000, right? So we're kind of covered both ways. I've met many companies who the perception was, when you're self-funded, that means you just kind of got this unending amount of claims that you pay. Now you can, as a company, decide how much stop loss to buy. You can decide, you can play around with that. You can get aggressive with that. Some larger companies, they want to take on more risk themselves, I think, than smaller companies. We're small. We can't afford to have wide swings in our health. So we had to say, no, we're gonna get the right amount. Some companies have like $100,000 for each individual claim. We're too small. We couldn't do that. We said we can stomach $30,000. And the nice thing about this plan is you still pay the same amount. So let's just say we pay $50,000 a month into this plan. Let's just say you had a month where you needed to really pay $70,000. We still just pay the 50.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been nice for us. It's a consistent spend.
The only thing I would add there, that was good. The only thing I would add there is that's part of our service is we have, because the stop loss market is kind of like the mortgage market. If you've ever been on LendingTree, you only go once because they send you 800 banks start sending you quotes and stuff. You're like, who is this Anchorage, Alaska bank sending me a quote for North Carolina? We don't do that, but there are over 100 stop loss providers in the marketplace from Warren Buffett on down, and we work with the 5 or 6 that truly get it. Licensed in North Carolina, A plus paper, so top, lots of money on their balance sheet, lots of experience, all of that, and then we say to them, here's what we're doing to reduce your costs, for the stop loss. We're doing all these things with top quality, less high cost claims, more import, like we can import drugs and spend a lot less on drugs. And so we reduce their risks, so they give us a better price. It's kind of like somebody said it, it's like taking care of your home. If you do all these things like put in sprinklers and smoke detectors and a new roof and get all that stuff out, that you'll pay less for home insurance because they're like, oh, you did all these things, right? That's what we're doing for your plan. We're making it better for the insurance company. They're like, there's less risk if we underwrite Hero with stop loss, so we're going to reduce their costs. But we do that for you, and then we present it to Doug or his CFO and the HR. And we say, hey, and the broker, here's the 4 quotes we got for you for renewal. Do you want to increase your spec from that individual stop loss from 30 to 50? Your rates went down a little bit. Maybe that's too much. How about 40? Let's just go to 40 and lower our rates by 2% instead of 4%. You can start, like Doug said, playing around with it. We provide you all those numbers, and we go to the marketplace and pull quotes in, and then we sort through 20 quotes and get it down to like 4 and share that with you and your broker to see, hey, what are you comfortable with? The school district I was with yesterday has bumped up their deductible to $125,000 per individual claim. Why? Because they have so much money in reserve from doing this that they're feeling really comfortable about the money they have banked, that they want to lower their insurance costs even more. Now, that's a little aggressive, right, in my view. But everybody's got a different risk appetite and budget, and that's where we just provide all of those options for your review.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Next slide.
So this is a chart that should be out there more, and it's different for every company. But I pulled this off of one of our quotes. We were working with a bigger company a little bit, that's spending $1 million or so, and what often happens is people think, oh, my broker's making X and that's really hurting me, or the stop, or we heard somebody say telehealth went from $2 to $250. Oh, we got to fire them. And it's missing the forest for the trees. If you look at the dollars, and this should be $1 really, if you look at the dollars you're spending on health insurance, if you get all your data like we provide you, you'll see that typically 75% or 75 cents of every dollar is going to pay claims. That's going to, usually 50 cents of every dollar is going to medical, and 25 cents of every dollar is going to pharmacy. And then the other 25%, or the smaller slice of the pie, is going to stop loss insurance and admin. And so in this example, like I said, this is a little over $1 million bucks in annual premiums. They're spending 76% on claims. We work really hard to reduce that. That's the only variable. What you want to do with the others is manage them. You can't argue with Teladoc to get it down to $2. Let's manage the vendors in the admin and the stop loss space. That's what we do. And then let's pivot and work really hard to reduce the big slice of the pie. And I think one of the complaints I would have about a lot of people that don't, first hear about this is they mistake the admin and the insurance for the big piece, and the big piece is the claims. Way bigger, sometimes 8 to 10 times bigger. And so keep your eyes on the prize and reduce claims, and you're going to impact your overall insurance spend tremendously. If you focus only on the admin, you reduce admin by 10%, you just saved 1% overall.
So in this case, if you look at our quotes we had 3 quotes. We would, under Hero, we would actually spend a little bit more on the admin side.
Yeah.
But yet the overall was the same. We also saved $200,000 in a year, because that admin is getting us things like a nurse navigator and a pharmacist and all these direct contracts. So it's really like, but yeah, apples to apples, one could say, wait a minute now, I'm going to spend more on admin costs under this Hero thing. Why would I go do that? Well, again, for us, we didn't have any of that stuff before. If we had a question, we went to a website or called an 800 number, and you know how that goes. Not very positive. Now we call a nurse who knows us, has our chart right there, knows what we're going on, and have a nice conversation. So, at any rate, it was more. We did spend a little bit more on admin costs.
Yeah. Next slide, please. And so we talked a little bit about this, and this slide's 2 years old, so we got to update it. But because where do the savings come from? A lot of them are on the surgery side, like Doug and we both talked about, kind of the ones y'all know about, like knees and hips and shoulders and uh, things like that are prevalent. The cost is nowhere near 48,000 if you add up all the EOBs, like durable medical equipment, drugs, facility fees, surgeon fees, assistant fees, nursing fee. If you go through the hospital system and do a knee, you're going to get 9, typically 8 different explanation of benefits could be coming in. Anesthesiologist is billing separately. A lot of them have left the networks so they can charge you out of network rates while you're at Duke or UNC or Wake Med or Novant. They shouldn't let them do that, but a lot of anesthesiologists will do that now. And I know nurses that have that are in demand because you need those nurses. Some of those nurse groups are not joining networks so they can bill higher. So you don't know that when you're in the hospital. So having a bundled price or one straight price for everything is really important. And so that delta has really grown from 48,000. Now it's more like 60,000. We've seen 80,000 up at Mission in 80. Oh, yeah, 80. We saw $105,000 hip replacement at Mission, which is astronomical, 4 times what we would pay. But anyway, the delta there is where you save a lot of money. And then also on the drug side, Humira's, Enbrels, Stellaras, other drugs that are growing way higher than inflation, and getting those drug costs down by either prescription assistance programs. If the person taking the drug is making less than $150,000 a year, we have a real high batting average, like 85-90% of getting that drug down to 0 through prescription assistance. And if we can't do that, then going and importing that drug from Canada and getting it delivered to your employee at a fraction of the price that it costs from getting it in North Carolina. There's a lot of aggressive things we can do to reduce costs for both the people and the plan through direct contracting. Next slide, please. And so Doug is familiar with this, and say, how do you put it all together? This is probably the only slide we could talk about if we talk about how does it all work? Well, the nurse has your predictive analytics. What does that mean? That's all your claims and prescriptions are going into a database. And let's say somebody got a cortisone shot. Well, that would just be like a $300 claim, but it's very indicative of a potential for a hip surgery, because if you get pain in your hip and you're getting cortisone shots, under your current plan, nobody does nothing. But under our plan, that would be a trigger diagnosis. So the nurse would see that and say, hey, Doug, I'm sorry to hear about your hip. What happened? You just got a cortisone shot. And Doug might be, wait a minute, how'd you find that out? Well, I'm seeing all your information. This is Nurse Faith, and oh yeah, I've seen you on the, I know who you are. How can you help? Well, if you need that MRI, yeah, I've got an MRI, and I'm in Raleigh. Okay, we've got Raleigh Ortho. We've got Raleigh Ortho, but we also have Raleigh Radiology. That's near your house. It's only 20 minutes away. If you go there, Doug, it's 0 out of pocket, and you save your plan $4,000. Oh, okay. Oh, and there's no parking deck. You just pull in and walk in. And it's brand new equipment and high-ranked doctor. They'll set you up there to get that better. And then maybe you'd need PT instead of surgery. Okay, how about going to Sports and More, or to Raleigh Ortho, or to wherever else you want? There's 20 locations we have for PT and RTP. Yeah, that sounds great. And so that care path is taking Doug. If you can see that little screen, it's kind of small, but you see the green bodies and the yellow bodies and the red bodies on the screen. If you're green bodies, you're not generating any claims. And then if you get a cortisone shot, or you're scheduled for surgery, or you're in PT, you turn yellow, that means you need some navigation. And red bodies are those that are cancer survivors, diabetics, chronic conditions, somebody in surgery that week. The nurse has to have a clear care path for that person. And so the red bodies are the high alerts, and we have to have communication and collaboration on the red bodies. And then the second screen they have is that one in the middle, the provider platform. And that's where Doug was talking about all the providers in America are rated by volume and outcomes, accreditation, like are they a fellowship surgeon or are they, this joke has come up too many times before, but what do you call the person who graduated last in their medical school class? Doctor. Well, that's not who we work with. We're not going to send you to that person. We know the ratings of the doctors by their volume and outcomes, the complexity, the accreditations they had. Are they in the fellowship programs? Are they highly ranked? And then where do they work? Do they work in a facility that has low infection rate, low complication rate, high cleanliness rate? There's some hospitals, one in North Carolina that had a C rating the other couple months ago with doctors not washing their hands, nurses not washing their hands enough, high infection rate. We're not going to send you there. So anyway, this all comes together in our platform, and the nurse has this information, and then she steers you to the highest quality, best facility, and that's where you get better outcomes for your people. So next slide, please. Well, this is the end of the show, and I know we covered a lot of ground and kind of quickly, but I think the net of it is what Doug started with. This is not something, off the beaten trail. This is a PPO at base. So if you just start with that, it's a Cigna or MedCost PPO, but then we make it better with the nurse steering to quality and having that relationships built between the nurse and the pharmacist and your people. You get better outcomes and you pay less for them. That's what it is. And so we work with your brokers. If you want to, if the broker is transparent and agrees to disclose all their fees and all that kind of stuff, we'll work with the broker. Absolutely. And so we're very broker friendly. And then we put together these quotes for them to review with you. Like Doug was saying, the 3 quotes, the broker might bring in outside, we hope they do, bring in outside quotes. And then all we ask is to get a quote and to present to the decision makers, because this is a little different. They have to be willing to talk about how they're going to communicate, how are we going to engage with your members? Are they remote? Are they in one location? Are they spread out around the country? We'd have to know a little bit more before we complete a quote about your particular population. And so Doug and I know Julia have more experience talking to some of the brokers about HERO and some of the education we've done, and maybe you have a point to share about that, Doug.
No, just the glide path usually is, if you're interested, is just get with your broker and let's have a conversation. That's one glide path. If you don't like your broker, I guess we can help you find another one. But the normal glide path is get with your broker and then and many of them already know about HERO, so that may be an easy conversation, or you may have one that doesn't know about HERO. And then we can have a one-on-one, or we can meet with you one-on-one. Either way, I think what we've learned over the last year or so, the broker is critical to this conversation. We've had many HR people and CFOs that like what they hear, but we really have to get that broker, because the broker does play an important part of this. HERO is not the brokerage firm here, so the broker does play an important part in this, and we want to make sure they're involved in this and on board with this, and a partner in this as they help you to hopefully offer better health care to your employees.
Yeah. Well,
so questions. We've said a lot. Somebody like your joke. They laugh at your joke, Patrick. That's kind of funny.
My daughter would be shocked.
It was kind of corny, but at any rate.
Well, we're totally open. Well, here I'll ask a question we get a lot. Then what? Okay, so you need 25 or 50 and higher on the plan, and you need to be spending somewhere north of say 6,000 or 7,000 per employee. Okay, and you know about the financing and the safety. What type of industries is HERO working with? And I would say that it over the last couple of years, more than I would have guessed. I knew that we'd be in wage sensitive businesses, right? Schools, construction companies, companies with thin margins, nonprofits. We work with a lot of nonprofits. Now we're getting more into into other businesses. We have a law firm we're quoting. I never thought we'd be quoting a law firm, but they are tired from it. They have a lot of money, but they're very tired of overpaying. It hurts them as attorneys to be overpaying for stuff. It's just an intellectual exercise. They got frustrated, very upset when they saw how much they were overpaying versus switching to us. So I would say that while our experience has been a lot deeper in services industries and construction, those related transportation and auto dealer, and now some school districts and talking to county governments and stuff, it's really expanded beyond that. And so it's moved beyond just wage sensitive businesses to those that want to enhance the benefits. Kind of tying it back to that first slide. Every company has to enhance their benefits in order to be competitive in this, incredibly tough marketplace for talent. And improving your benefits is a lot less expensive overall than just raising wages more and more. You got to do both, I guess, but having better benefits is a lot more economical to get there. And so that's my last thought on all this, Doug.
So other questions for today? Again, we will send out a recording and follow up with you if you want to have a one-on-one session or get your broker involved. Have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd love to meet him. Thanks so much.
I'm not seeing any questions, so everyone we'll give you 8 minutes back then. Have a great rest of the day. Hopefully you learned a few things today, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Have a nice day.
Thanks so much.